All right, we are going live. Hello, welcome everyone to another installment of Get a Clue in 52. This is for coaches, myself included. By now, you know that the Get a Clue in 52 series of books is a series of tips books, and it's exciting today. Today's tip number 11 in the particular section that we're in, which means I've got 10 tips to review, and then we go through all of these opening remarks. But let me see how quickly I can get through them. Let me jump Sue in, who's with us. Hi, Sue. How you doing? Long time no see. Sue just came out of a Clues Ooze online office hours, Clubex online office hours group mentoring in support of the integrity game content. But this is a different context. The Get a Clue in 52. So here we go. Get a Clue in 52 started off with this little thing right here that had all these mistakes in it. I read one tip every single Sunday night at 8 p.m. In 2020. Everybody remember the year 2020? And that's when I found all the mistakes, the spelling errors. I'm so embarrassed to say that I think I even spelled my own name wrong at one point. But it's a vulnerable experience, but vulnerable is not the same thing as threatened. We want to be willing to make mistakes, and as soon as we make them, we can find them and not repeat them, etc. So then we cleaned it all up, if you will, in the second edition of the first Get a Clue in 52. Looks like this. So this is the one that I'm really proud of, happier with. And I read a tip from this every single Sunday night in 2021, but I streamed it into my YouTube channel in 2020. I streamed into the Facebook group, right? And then a client of mine, I was able to consult with him on his tips book as well, Give Your Way to the Top. And he was reading these on Tuesday nights. And I got done reading mine and he got done reading his. And so we created another Get a Clue in 52, the Entrepreneur Edition. We did it in his branding. We did it in my branding. And we read these tips last year every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. We would read for 30 minutes into my group, and then we would read for another 30 minutes into one of his social channels. Very fun project, co-branded. It's the same book, but just slightly different ISBN numbers and slightly different titling and different design and different branding. But it was a great collaboration for us to be together every Tuesday night, communicating and dialoguing around these tips to our audiences, and both of our audiences saw us together. Really powerful, very, very, very fun. And so that brought me to this year where we're doing this edition of Get a Clue in 52. So this is my third Get a Clue in 52 tips book. It's the fourth tips book that I've been involved with producing on some level, helping people Give Your Way to the Top. This is an incredible book. You should get it, Give Your Way to the Top. Very, very, very good. And that brings us to this year. So there's 5 categories in these books. Early on, for the first one, it was just networking, marketing, accountability, sales, and communication. Those were the 5 categories, 10 tips in each category, 2 extra tips in the marketing section to give me a year's worth. In the entrepreneurial edition, the 5 categories were personal branding, business acumen, business ownership, leadership and influence, and work-life balance. So that's how the tips are spread. So this year, the tips are all about coaching and building a coaching practice. That's why myself included is in there. I found as I was writing the tips for this book, because I do have a lot to offer aspiring and emerging coaches, anybody that's in the coaching game. If you're wanting to get into it, just got into it, or anywhere less than 50 years into it, 15 years, I could probably help. Of course, I've been aligned with and associated with the professionals in the Professional Coaching Alliance and California Coaches, nonprofit organizations that exist to support aspiring and emerging coaches building their practices. And it made sense that when I was thinking about, well, what Get a Clue in 52 book what tips book do I want to do this year? It made sense to me that I would do one for coaches, myself included. Even though I have a lot to offer aspiring and emerging coaches, I still have a lot to learn myself. And it's amazing kind of the lessons that I reminded myself of as I was going through this book. So it's a lot of memoir in here as much as it is mentoring. It's a lot of viability as far as tips are concerned. There's a lot of vulnerability, because I found that a lot of times I'm like laughing at myself, really kind of documenting some of the struggles that I went through, some of the things that are difficult, some of the challenges I still face to this day. I still struggle to call what I have a business, because I see myself as a solopreneur. I know that my initials are in every box on my org chart, and there's things I'm not getting to because I'm not good at it or instinctual for it, or there's other stuff going on. So when we're honest about what's really going on in our businesses, the closest I get is I want to call it a practice, or to even be more humble. It's an income earning hobby. Hey, congrats for me. I've designed this beautiful life that I get to do whatever I want, whenever I want. People pay me to talk to me. Is that a business? I don't know. All right. You can split the hairs on the semantics of it all, but that's an intro. That's that gets us started as far as what we're doing today. So it's Friday. It's 9:05. Sue, thank you as always for showing up to make this a little more interactive, and we'll see if we can get by the end of the year more people involved. And once I'm done teaching this semester at San Diego State, I'm going to turn to recruiting more subject matter experts to maybe be guests and help me flesh out these topics. We're going to see a friendly face here in just a second. There he is, Jim Rastusha.
Hey guys.
All right, what a welcome surprise.
Hey Jim.
Hi Sue, how are you doing?
Jim was in
good.
Jim was in Australia recently, Sue. I'm sure you guys can have a sidebar conversation about that. But Jim, we're international. Sue is here, so we're international. So here we go. I've introduced how we got to this version of Get a Klu in 52 as compared to the other versions of Get a Klu in 52 that we've done so far. And now what I want to do is I want to give a quick review of the 10 tips in the section that we're currently in, because this is a special installment of Get a Klu in 52. It's the last tip in this particular section. Before I get into that, shout out, happy Friday, casual Friday. Very proud of my San Diego State Aztecs who won their first round game yesterday in the National Collegiate Athletics Association annual championship basketball tournament. It's so sweet to see. I got to watch the game at a local bar and grill right on campus called Eureka, and I was on campus immersed with students were all around, and 2 or 3 of them were my students. And then one of my students was on camera because he's on the basketball team. So like when his face was, they showed his face at the end of the game when he was nervous. He was sitting on the bench cheering on his teammates. I'm like, that's my student. Hey, there's your classmate. So a lot of San Diego State energy right now. For anybody out there that's affiliated with San Diego State in any way, shape, or form, let's go Aztecs. We got another game tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock Pacific time. And they're playing Furman, who upset Virginia. And so we're 1 win away to getting to the Sweet 16, which is going to be a huge deal, a big accomplishment for San Diego State. So that's on my mind today on a casual, fanatic Friday. So having said all of that, let me go ahead and let everybody know, right? Welcome to Get a Klu. We're doing the banners thing now. Welcome to Get a Klu in 52 for coaches, myself included. The book is dedicated to my family, without whom nothing would exist. I want to give a shout out to a gentleman I saw on a live kind of podcast, a live stream yesterday, Troy Hoffman. I've interviewed him live. He's always getting interviewed. Everybody wants to get Troy Hoffman on their show, on their thing, on their side, in their wheelhouse, in their sphere. Troy's got so much real, true insights from not just the land of personal and professional growth, which he grew up in, but also from the idea of being a founder. Being a founder, that word you hear a lot, founder. Troy's somebody that a lot of people are tapping into, and he wrote the foreword for this book. So that's a big compliment to me and the work that I'm doing. And so my hat goes off to Troy, and thank you, Troy. Now, the sections of this book, right, you can see them here. There's self-promotion. Then after self-promotion is done, we're going to move on to engagement, and then motivation, then accountability, then practice building. So that's going to be our progression. And let me review the 10 tips that preceded today in the self-promotion section. So number 1 is you got to start calling yourself a coach. There's always that special moment where you embrace the identity of being a coach, where you have to step into that and realize, wait, I can coach. I'm a coach. People are going to be calling me Coach Jeffrey. Whoa, what a trip. But you have to own that and accept that. But then tip number 2 is we can't get so enamored with the skill sets of coaching and how wonderful it is to be able to help people in the ways that we do, that we start telling everybody that we're a coach, especially if they don't care. Right? So only call yourself a coach when somebody asks you what you do, or when it's relevant, or when somebody's complaining a little too much about something and you ask them, hey, you're working with a coach on that. When it's viable, when it makes sense, not for you and how excited you are that you're a coach, but when it makes sense to them. Right? In terms of self-promotion. Tip number 3 in this section was don't just call yourself a coach. And this Kluby snack that I've fallen in love with about how, like, just weak, self-weakening the word just is. I was just trying to this, I was just trying to that. The use of the word just, people don't pay enough attention to it, but it's minimization, it's weakness, and in often cases flat out lie. You're not just calling to see how I'm doing, you're calling for some other reason. Tell me what that reason is, right?
Mhm.
So never mind eliminating the word just and the semantics of it, the linguistics of it, the psycho emo neurolinguistic, vibration of the word just and why we use it, how we use it, on and on. But on top of that, we're never just a coach. We either were a whole bunch of stuff before we became a coach, or once we become a coach, if we stay in the game at all, we're going to become more than just a coach. So stop calling yourself a coach. This tip is all about if you're only going to be a coach, right, and there's nothing else that's going to be on your menu, you're going to have a hard time solving the problems that coaching solves, because sometimes coaching isn't the only tool that's required for the same problem. Sometimes it requires training, sometimes it requires mentoring, sometimes it requires team building, sometimes it requires a soft skill experience, sometimes it requires access to an info product, sometimes it requires a retreat, so if coaching is a one-trick pony type of thing, it's an amazing tool, but if all you're ever going to be as a coach, you're going to have a hard time growing a business around that, because ultimately the problems that you solve as a coach, you're going to need more ways to solve those problems, which is why you would never just call yourself a coach. So once the idea is, I never liked calling myself a coach. Anyway, I would say world-class coach or a communication coach or international coach, like, some qualifier. In other words, back to this, don't just call yourself a coach. What kind of coach are you? Are you a sales coach? Are you a communication coach? Are you a team building coach? Are you a marketing coach? Are you a branding coach? Are you that whole piece of it? But what we're getting at here when I say stop calling yourself a coach is when I realize that I'm not just a coach. I am a soft skills trainer, or I'm a personal professional development specialist, or I'm a management consultant, or I'm a solution provider, or I'm a professional services provider. When I change my title to something like that, now coaching just is one thing on my menu, and I've got all these other things on my menu that I can use to help solve a problem. Sue, you and I were talking about assessments this morning. What does that make me? Am I a coach, an assessments coach, an assessments trainer, an assessments facilitator, a team building consultant with assessments? What am I? Right. So like coaching is great, but if we get locked in, I'm a coach, I think we're going to be missing so many things. And, again, I always tell people, we're always more than a coach. We're always more than a coach. First, before we become one. And second of all, once we become one. I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I'm a trainer, I'm a facilitator, I'm a host, I'm a writer, on and on. I'm a guest on other people. I'm a subject matter expert, right? So when I start using all of those other terms, coaching is just one thing on the menu, and now I'm in a position to build a business rather than build a practice, if you will, right? So tip number 5 in this section is get super honest about your why. And, every other answer to any other question depends on our honest answers to questions of purpose. And that comes from the integrity game, but I'm not here to promote the integrity game. I'm doing plenty of promotion for the integrity game in other environments. But what we're talking about here is the truth. The truth is, we become a coach either because we want to make money, either in addition to how we already make money, or in place of how we make money. We have to get honest about the income earning aspect of coaching. It's a valuable service. It's worth paying for. And if we're not clear about that, like, look, I want to earn revenue. I want to have a profitable business. So I charge for coaching. Coaching is valuable. I expect to be paid for coaching. I'm not going to coach you for free. For me, after a certain point, I always give people 2 complimentary coaching sessions, right? You're going to learn about that a lot in the next section, is how I built my coaching practice, offering 2 complimentary coaching sessions instead of 0, 1, or more than 2. I'm going to get into all of the comedy and the stand-up routines I have about enrollment dysfunction and all the things that I've seen out there in the marketplace. But the idea is, it starts here. Like when you're self-promoting, if you're not clear about the fact that you're in business with coaching, right? If you hide or suffocate or dance around or make vague or ambiguous the fact that you deserve to and expect to be paid for coaching, then it's going to blunt or thwart or dwarf or confuse your self-promotional efforts, right? You're going to end up confusing people, let alone yourself. You got to get honest as soon as possible about the income earning nature of what you're doing as a coach. And the truth is, we all want meaningful work with a monetized skill set that allows us to be ourselves and call our own shots. That's the truth. We all want that, right?
Yeah.
So here we go. Tip number 6 is to get super confident about your what. And this again ties in with what I was starting to sprinkle in a couple tips ago, right? Is when you're stop calling yourself a coach or more than just a coach, right? All of that is we want to transition from self-promotion to solution promotion, right? So in other words, when we're promoting solutions, we're really not promoting ourselves except for promoting how we can solve a problem. And so the focus becomes the problem, and now we're speaking to somebody's listening. So it starts with building. Remember, tip number 1 is start calling yourself a coach. It starts very autobiographical. It starts with your journey on your way to becoming a coach and knowing that you can do it. But then the transition occurs where it starts to be really about what coaching is really all about, is other people. But we got to get honest about who we are. We got to get honest about how much more we are than just a coach. We got to get honest about the fact that we want to earn and we deserve to earn money as a coach. And once we get all of that out of the way, am I a coach? Can I do it? Do I want to earn money? Now we really can truly and freely start to focus on other people, which means a focus on their solutions, which is a focus on their problems that we can help them solve. So I love this. We must welcome the transition from self-promotion to solution promotion somewhere along this journey. Now that we're focused on the other instead of ourself, right? Now part of self-promotion is to get super, and I say professionally. Margot's not with us today, Sue, our resident HR expert. I always say professionally, there it is, professionally, get professionally intimate with our who, which is the audience. And I have this great analogy about be the animal. The best hunter is never trying to be the best hunter. They're trying to be the animal. And if I can get 1/2 step ahead of the animal because I've taken so much time to know the animal, that will make me the best hunter. So it's really not about self-promoting at all, except for promoting how well I know you, and how well I know you, and how well I know you, and how well I know you. And I know what you're thinking. I know what the self-talk is. I know what hurts. That means that I'm going to be more credible when I offer my solution if I demonstrate how well I know you. So I'm not really self-promoting myself at all, except for how much I know you and what pain you're in or what pleasure you seek. And then I'm going to have your attention for my solutions. Okay. Tip number 8 is forget your how, right? So any sales training that you've ever been to is going to talk to you about sell benefits, not features, right? Well, coaches will make the mistake about talking about how coaching works and how coaching works. And one thing you get in my program and one thing you get, and here's how it works, and check out this feature and that feature and this feature, because they've never been honest, first of all, about the income earning part. Just get to it already, right? And people don't have confidence about enrolling. They don't have confidence in confronting people to ask for a contract, to pitch a program, to ask for a credit card, to ask when they want to get started, to overcome identify just concerns, which some people out there may have heard as overcome objections, right? And so your how you coach, how you do a behavioral intervention, how you confront somebody if they're out of integrity on a commitment, how you get people engaged, how you get people out of your own way, how you deliver a strategy, how you match that to a behavioral style, how you assess behavioral style, the how, nobody really cares until they ask. And if they ask,
then they're interested.
Tell them, right?
Yeah.
But always mix in. You're right? Always mix in, Jim, you're correct. But always mix in a benefit. Like never talk about a how without finishing with a. So what that means to you is this is how I do a behavioral intervention. This is how I get somebody out of their own way. This is how I have somebody pull their head out of their butt. This is how I do it. But what that means to you is that you're going to enjoy pulling your own head out of your own butt. It's going to be fun. Do you understand? Like, this is how I do it, but this is what it means to you. Okay. Next, tip number 9 was 7 reversible questions for networking. This tip actually shows up in the networking section in another version of Get a Klu in 52. And I made that disclaimer in the introduction section of this book that, hey, some of these tips are repurposed because the context is in different context can, the same tip can serve different contexts, if you will. So, and I'm the author, so I get to ask myself for permission to reprint my tips into different editions. It's very fun to ask myself for permission. You should try it sometime. Ask yourself for permission to do things. It's great. So it's funny when I wrote the letter myself, Dear Jeff, I'm writing another version of your book. Do I have your permission to quote you? Anyway, I'm joking. I digress. So these 7 questions, reversible like a jacket. You could wear it this way. You could wear it that way. By the way, Jim, is your vest reversible?
It is reversible.
Can you wear it black and red?
It's blue and red.
Oh, blue? Okay. All right. I've got lights in my face here, right? So you could wear it blue if you need to, or you could wear it red if you need to, right? You didn't plan that, did you? Of course you didn't plan that, but it's reversible. So same thing, right? There's 7 questions in tip number 9. And what I mean by reversible is, yeah, Jim, perfect. I want to be able to ask those questions when I'm networking. And guess what? I better be able to answer those questions when I'm networking. So it's a vertebrae. And if you can take care of and practice being able to ask these questions conversationally, you're going to learn so many critical things about people. And then when it's your turn to answer these questions, you're going to have more targeted, more dialed in. Your answers are going to be more relevant to the answers that you just got when you're learning about somebody. So, seek first to understand, then to be understood. When you're in networking situations, you want to be the first person to be asking questions, if at all possible, right? And if somebody gets to it and beats you to the punch and starts asking you about you, you want to know yourself well enough, know yourself across these 7 questions that I've summarized for you in tip number 9. And then tip number 10, I'm sure I got to move it to its proper spot. But tip number 10 now, last week, which prepare to speak your way to success. Very simply, I don't think there's any better way to self-promote than public speaking. So public speaking, if you're a guest on a podcast, I'm doing public speaking right now, right? I'm going to be speaking later on this month at the Professional Coaches Alliance. I'm going to be holding a Biz Lab event where on a Monday I give the content, and then 2 days later on the Wednesday, we'll follow up with a workshop and roll up our sleeves. That's a form of public speaking. I spoke, what's today, Friday, 2 weeks ago at a conference. I gave an integrity game keynote and facilitated, right? So there's no better way to promote yourself than public speaking. I can give you all kinds of examples of that. But I used to speak for free a lot just so I could offer 2 complimentary sessions to everybody in attendance. So I'd speak for free, say, you're a great crowd. You all get 2 complimentary sessions. Then I would conduct those sessions and enroll clients. But I don't know if I would have been able to build my business if I didn't offer to speak for free at networking events, 40, 50 people, where I'd get 5 or 6 to do the sessions, and I'd roll 2 or 3. And now I'm rolling. Now I got clients and people are talking about it, and on and on and on. So public speaking is just incredible. But a lot of people say they're afraid of public speaking. And my argument in tip number 10 is, no, you're not. You're afraid of preparing because you don't know how to prepare, because you haven't found a trusted, reliable, proven process where you can budget the right amount of time into the right amount of preparation. I've gone all around the world preparing people to get ready to speak on stages. Sometimes it takes a day. Sometimes it takes 3 days, right? But that's 3 dedicated days. If you're in your normal hamster wheel routine, right, you're not going to find the time to budget. I got an hour here or 30 minutes there. That's no way to prepare for public speaking. You need to dedicate the time to it. I've got a proven 8-step process, right? As a matter of fact, anybody that wants it, I should put it in the comments or something. You could send an email to getaklu.net. And did I promote this last week? Yeah. Email getaklu.net, info at getaklu.net if you want my PDF for 8 steps to fearless public speaking. Let me edit the banner right now and make sure that was a horrible edit. Let's do it this way. Free ebook, 8 steps to fearless public speaking. Email info at getaklu.net and put something about 8 steps in the subject line for that. And no, come on. Don't tell me it didn't take those edits. Oh boy. What did I do wrong here, Jim?
I'm less technologically capable than you are.
Well, I guess I'm multitasking. Did that do it? No, it didn't want to take the edit again.
No, that's not it.
Anyway, I'm not going to give too much on this. I'll try one more time. But I want to get into today's tip, and we're 23 minutes in. Look at me, right? Bottom line is, you guys got to just email info. Oh, you got to hit the save button. Go figure. Email for the 8 steps to fearless public speaking. 8 steps to fearless public speaking. Email info at save. Yeah. Hey, I did it. Never give up. All right. Thank you very much. 8 steps to fearless public speaking. Just email info at getaklu.net and put something about 8 steps in the subject line so we know what you're emailing about and how to get you what you're looking for. So there's the first 10 tips. And now, I mean, I'm so excited about this week because next week I don't have 10 tips to review. Next week, we're starting a brand new section. It'll be the first tip of that section. So I'm not going to review the first 11 tips. We're just going to start right in with the tip next week. So today is tip number 11 in the self-promotion section. And it's almost like a segue to the next section. And it's called Little Pink Spoons. So let me go ahead with all of that rigmarole on the introduction. Here we go. Tip number 11 is page 48 if you're reading at home with your copy. And here we go. Tip number 11, little pink spoons. Oh, I'm sorry. One more thing, create a banner. Tip number 11, little pink spoons.
Make sure you save it.
Thank you, Jim. Add banner. And there we go. Little pink spoons. Here we go. Page number 48. And here we go, word for word. Trialability is a term that refers to our ability to try something risk-free, and it has been proven throughout history to be a huge factor in a decision to buy or adopt an innovation or new product, service, or way of doing and being. Examples are endless. They include the 30-day money-back guarantees on infomercials to test driving a car, from the dressing rooms at clothing stores to the end-of-aisle stations at Costco's or Sam Clubs, right? End cap stations, right? When you get the free food. And perhaps my favorite of all time is the little pink spoons at Baskin Robbins. I've test driven a car without buying one, but never have I ever gotten some little pink spoons full of ice cream and decided not to buy. Likewise, a very important part of our self-promoting is our ability to offer a risk-free sample of our coaching that increases rate of enrollment. Many coaches do, in fact, offer some form of complimentary coaching, but often fail because the experience is more of an awkward sales process than a true sample of what coaching will really be like. ... The prospect starts with their guard up and keeps it up, suspecting the pitch coming at any moment. Conversely, just as many coaches never transition to a sales process within a complimentary session. They coach the first thing that moves and simply stay in coaching mode, ultimately offering that's awkward. Ultimately offering more, or quote unquote another session, more free coaching. That's a typo. Let me just mark that. Ultimately offering another free session, or another session parentheses, more free coaching, instead of asking for the sale enrollment at the end of the session. Are you familiar with either of these experiences? While the next section of this book is all about enrollment, we conclude the current section on self-promotion arguing that you must have a really good risk-free sample that is representative of what the actual product or service is really like. Most important, you need to find a way to transition from the risk-free sample to asking for the sale if you want to avoid going from self-promotion to self-demotion, like so many coaches who struggle with enrollment do. Keep reading and you are on your way to winning the game of self-promotion when you win the game of enrollment. All right, there we go. So I'm really teasing this next section in this tip. The very simple nature of the tip is, do you have a risk-free sample of your product or service? And a lot of coaches will say, well, yeah, I give away a complimentary session. I give complimentary sessions all the time. My question is that a real risk-free sample of what the real experience is? And my argument here in this tip is that it is not.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a real example. And I'm going to elaborate on why it's not when we get to the next section, when I explain to everybody in the series of tips that I've got. There's 9 tips, I believe, in the next section, which will get us to 20 total once we're done with the first 2 sections. But I'm going to explain all of the things that I studied and observed and researched and experienced when I would allow coaches to give me complimentary sessions. I'd say, hey, if this coach can coach me and they give me really good value in this comp session, I will hire this coach to be my coach. And what I found is that coaches are struggling with this. Coaches are really struggling with the complimentary session and transitioning from a comp session to enrollment. And there's a lot of mistakes that they're making, or a lot of things that they're not aware of. And my heart goes out to a coach that went through some coaches training, was told you should be able to enroll anybody inside of coaching inside of 45 minutes following the script, and now are going out in the world offering a free session, trying to execute a script, and they're not enrolling clients and they still have their jobs. And they're, I taught classes as little as I got paid. I still taught classes for first 10 years. I was building my coaching practice. It's hard to get a full-time income as a coach if you can't enroll coaching clients. And even when you do enroll coaching clients, it's still hard to get a full-time income from a coaching business, even if you are enrolling clients. That's why we want more things on the menu and on and on and on. We'll talk about scaling and growing a coaching practice in future tips in the book. But that's what we've got is little pink spoon. And even when you test drive a car, like I've test driven a car and I'm supposed to get the feel of what the car is really like, but you just test drive and they have this, map. And they're like, go here, go here, go here, go here, go here, and come back, right? Well, that didn't tell me how to do the parallel parking and the 3-point turns and I'm on ramping on the freeway and somebody is on their phone and can I punch it and get ahead of this person? Or like there's situations you still don't experience when you do a test drive of a car to know if this car is really going to work for you. Especially like, for example, like I remember when I got my BMW, no offense to BMW, but I went from a Honda CRV to a BMW and I'm like, oh, BMW. And I felt the difference in the engine, but what I didn't test was how do I move my life from the CRV into, and so all of the compartments and the space and the room inside of the car that I had in my Honda, I found I had much less. And I'm a utilitarian guy, so I like little drawers and compartments and glove boxes and little trays for coins, and I want to know where I put my tissues and my nail clipper and my parking pass and my napkins right. So all of a sudden I'd test driven this car, but I really didn't have a real risk-free experience of what owning that car would really be like, because there was things left out of that test drive experience that I didn't experience until after I had bought the car. Does this make sense? So I'm setting up to say this, that there's a lot of things going on in the mind of a prospect heading into a complimentary session. And one of them is that at some point, this person's going to pitch me. And I mentioned that they've got their guard up. At some point, this is one complimentary session. So at some point in this session, somebody's going to pitch me. So am I getting coached or am I getting sold? And when you have that kind of defensive posture, from a prospect, it's hard to do real coaching. First of all, it's hard to do real sales. Second of all, right? So in the next section of the book, the enrollment engagement section, I am going to break down tip by tip. What did I do to offer my little pink spoons? How did I create little pink spoons of coaching where by the time somebody was done with my 2 little pink spoons, they knew and they felt as close to exactly how coaching will work for them as I could possibly create that experience, so that it was a hot knife through warm butter when it was time for me to ask them, do you want me to be your coach? Right? And a lot of people struggle with that. A lot of people struggle getting to that place where they could confidently ask, do you want me to be your coach? Yes. Okay, great. Let's customize a program for you. And then having a dialogue to be able to structure a program. You have predetermined programs or you customize for the person, but at some point you got to get to that position where you say, hey, we're done with the complimentary coaching now. You should have an experience and an understanding of how coaching works, how I deliver coaching, and how coaching with me would work for you. Do you want me to be your coach? Got to be able to ask. So we need to earn that ask. We got to get the confidence. We got to get the permission. And we got to pave the runway, etc. That's what the next 9 tips of the book are going to be about. But for today, we closed out this first section on self-promotion. Where is it? Right here. Self-promotion's done with little pink spoons. And so welcome, Jim and Sue. Do we have any, a couple minutes, 10, 15 minutes of dialogue, of Q&A? Have I said anything today that sparks a comment, a question, a joke, or anything that you thought was valuable in what we're presenting?
I love the little pink spoons. I love just that analogy, because I love how it just like puts, an experience in your head, because we've all done the ice cream thing. You just give them a little bit at a time, and you kind of get that hook because you get to taste it. And then once you taste it, you really like it. And then once you really like it, then it's easier to move on to the next step.
Well, yeah, I'm glad that you liked it. I am in love with my analogies and metaphors.
Yeah, I love
It's
the
like
analogy of it.
it's one of the things that I'm able to do is visualize something concrete that everybody's familiar with, so that it's easier to understand something that might be a little more difficult to explain just on its own, right? So I've always, for some reason, been gifted at metaphors, analogies, for examples, and so forth, right? But what's really important about what you're saying, Jim, is, let me go back to the metaphor. Sue, what are the ingredients of Rocky Road ice cream?
Oh, well, you got marshmallow, you've got nuts. You've got, I don't know what else have you got in
Chocolate.
there.
There's got to be
Chocolate.
some walnuts, some marshmallow, and some chocolate chips, and then of course the chocolate ice cream, right?
Yeah.
So if I dig a little pink spoon in, Jim, and I hand you a spoon of ice cream, and there's chocolate ice cream on there, and you're trying to taste Rocky Road, but I don't put a marshmallow on there. Maybe there's a walnut and a chocolate chip, but no marshmallow, or maybe there's a chocolate chip, maybe there's a marshmallow, but no walnut. Yeah, if
you're not getting the whole thing. You're
not getting it.
You're getting part of it. Yeah.
Are you really getting a taste? And so what I'm trying to teach coaches out there in the world is that you're doing this one complimentary session. It's a veiled sales pitch. Your prospects know that it is, and you're challenging yourself with you're promising coaching, but what you're really offering is a sales pitch, and you're not upfront about that. Say, hey, how about I give you a complimentary sales pitch, and you might get some free coaching along the way. That would change the game entirely, right? But my point is that they're not getting a real sample of what coaching with you is like. If you're trying to transition in one conversation from some coaching to a sales pitch, they dilute each other, first of all. And second of all, I mean, the big reveal is that if you're offering accountability as part of what the value of your coaching is, and they don't commit to something in one session that you've held them accountable for, in another session, they haven't experienced your coaching at all.
Yeah, you can't do that. There's no accountability in one session.
There is zero accountability in one session. So this is the epiphany that I had way back when. I'm like, oh my God, accountability is so valuable. It's so important. It's what people avoid. It's what really, like, at least 50% of what coaching is all about, or at least my coaching, right? So they're never going to test drive my car unless they commit to something and have the experience of me holding them accountable. So I crafted my complimentary coaching in a way where they would commit to something at the end of one session. And I'm not selling them anything. I tell them things that you only get the second session if you like the first one. So now they know that they're not coming into a veiled sales pitch. Now the real coaching can occur. And I know that my goal is just to get them to commit to something that I'll hold them accountable for in the second session. So I know that I'm not even going to talk about sales until after 2 sessions are done. 2 pink spoons. Because it takes 2 pink spoons for you to experience what the value is when I coach you, right? You're not going to never understand what coaching with me is really like unless you have 2 sessions and make a commitment in one that I hold you accountable for in the second. So that whole process I'm previewing, and we're going to take 9 tips to unearth that a little bit and get into greater detail on it. What else by way of comments or questions? Anybody?
It reminds me of a conversation we had ages ago in our mentoring, where I know for me, you identified again how I was tending to muddy the waters because I was getting caught up in continuing to coach and not differentiating, explaining the structure of what, what the experience involved, taking them through that experience and really separating out the whole sales conversation. And by not being very clear about those components and muddying the waters, it was diluting the experience and therefore no traction.
Yeah. And if you, in that moment, not to like dig too deep on this because it's uncomfortable as I hear it, because as an empath, I feel you. But like, imagine the discomfort you felt in the moment as the coach. And I just know, like, oh my God, I'm here trying to coach, but I got to transition to a sale. Where am I? Who am I right now? Where am I at? Are they still with me? I'm thinking about what I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm trying to stay with it. And now they sense all of that.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're not 100% confident in yourself, if you're not and that doesn't mean you're perfect. That doesn't mean you execute, but you're demonstrating a confidence. You have to be confident as the coach. They need to have confidence in you that you know how to guide them. You know how to lead. You know where you are in your own process. You have command of your own stuff, et cetera, et cetera. And I'll never forget one time, and I'm not going to mention her name because I'm sure she's a sweet person, but I'll never forget. I was doing, like, I had said yes to somebody that offered me a complimentary coaching session. And then I remember she had just finished her coach's training program and she was executing some process. And I was like waiting for her and I could tell through the phone, she wasn't interacting with me. She was like reading some stepwise process on the side of the computer. And I would hear her saying, no, I'm going to skip that part. And I'm like, excuse me? And she's like, oh, no. I'm like, what part? Like, what part are you going to skip? And now she's like, oh, no, I did. and now she's interacting with her thing, and now I'm like, well, what? I'm not getting the full experience. Is there a part that I'm skipping? Am I a unique person now? Did you already get something, discovered in this conversation that makes that? Why are you skipping that part? What was that part? I want to know the part. Tell me your process. And now I'm not getting coached at all, am I?
Mm-hmm.
Does this make sense? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's like, God bless her, like, what a sweet lady. But I felt for her because she lacked her power in that moment. She lacked confidence. And there's no way under the sun that she could ever recover from that and be my coach.
Mm-hmm.
She could be my coaching client. I wanted to teach her, I want to teach her how I do it. I want to eliminate that insecurity. I want to eliminate that need to rely on a process. I want to train people where you could look right into the camera right here and just stay with the person and trust yourself that you're going to get them where they need to be. So I've been offering private group mentoring. I've had my coaching and leadership training that I've, been quiet about. I haven't told the world about it. Right. But, here I'm trying to let the world know, hey, I'm onto something. I've developed 2 complimentary sessions. It's like the little pink spoon at Baskin Robbins. And the only reason after 2 complimentary sessions with me, the true and only reason you will not move forward is if you don't really need coaching at all, like not coachable or don't need coaching. Maybe you need a shrink, or maybe you just need a pat on the back and off you go. Or maybe you just need one exercise and that was all it took. Or you really, truly do not have the money to invest in yourself. Other than that, when you experience 2 complimentary sessions with me, you know that I'm a life-changing force in people's worlds. So, everybody enrolls except for if you aren't coachable, you need a shrink, or you really don't have the money, right? Because coaching is that important, that valuable. And we demonstrate it that well in the little pink spoons that I'm going to take the next 9 tips of in the next 9 weeks, 2 months in a week, to explain tip by tip by tip by tip. Now, if you can't wait 2.5 weeks, 2.5 months to get all that information, and you're interested in something, right, a little more concrete and immediate, we've got Klu's Ooze, online office hours, which is group mentoring, where I do 3 live sessions per month. Plus, we have over 100 sessions that are recorded in the archives. And maybe next week I'm going to get more fluid with screen sharing inside of StreamYard. It's different than Zoom, and so I don't want to do something that messes me up like I was trying to with the banner earlier. But you can send an email to play@theintegritygame.com to get a code for 50% off. And for group mentoring, to be in these 3 live sessions that I do every single month, and access to the over 100 recordings that we did over the last couple of years, those archives, it's just $100 a month that we're charging, and I'm offering you audience members of Get a Klu in 52. If you're watching this or watching the recording, send an email and we'll give you the code for 50% off. A lot of times, you see this where people, they jump into something and they download and consume as much as they can and they cancel later on, whatever the case may be. There's 100 sessions in the archives and there's not enough time to listen to all of them. That's, it's probably like 150 hours worth of content. Right. So there it is. Group mentoring is live and it's valuable. The funnel is active. We've been testing it. And you can go to tinyurl.com/KlusOoze to enroll in it. But you want to email me for that code first. And I think, as a matter of fact, I think the code is.
Hey, Jeff?
Yeah.
I got to go.
Yeah. Well, Jim, do you have any other comments or any other comments?
We're going to catch up, and Sue, it's good to see you.
Good to see you, Jim.
Hey, thanks for stopping in, Jim. We'll catch up soon.
Sue, take care.
All right. Now, the next thing that we'll tell you guys about is the goal setting workshop on the 29th, 8th. What's Wednesday of this month? I think it's the 29th, Wednesday, the 29th of this month. We're going to do a free goal setting workshop, but we have our goal setting course. So when you enroll in the course, right, there's a code right there for $100 off our goal setting course. That's where you get recorded videos and worksheets. And as anytime we do a free workshop, we take the recording and we put it into the group, the online course page and on and on. So if goal setting, we're coming up on Q2. Q1 is done. So where are you at on track for 2023? Quarter 1 is almost done. We got 2 weeks left in quarter 1. For me, it's time to evaluate and revise my Q1 goals heading into Q2 and make sure I'm dialed in and recalibrated on what's my specific, measurable, achievable, my SMART goal setting heading into Q2. And then, of course, it's like, I can't believe it. Like, we're already in March, so I'm already starting to look ahead to September. Last year, from September, October, November, we did a 90-day challenge, and it's the group coaching version of the integrity game, and we're going to run it again this fall, starting in September. But it's an evergreen program right now. It just costs $497, but there's a code here for $200 off of that if you are interested in understanding the 10-point model of the integrity game and how playing the integrity game is holding yourself accountable to answering these 10 questions for yourself. It's a really powerful experience, and just thinking about all the things that I may be able to promote. And the last thing, though, is you guys know that I'm the Vice President of Communication for the Professional Coaches Alliance. So the link is here. I encourage anybody that's an emerging or an aspiring or even a practicing, even a seasoned coach, if you're not a member of the Professional Coaches Alliance, there is value waiting for you on some level. Even if you're a service provider that sells services to coaches, there's a place for you in Professional Coaches Alliance, because the promise of the nonprofit organization is to help coaches build their practices, help coaches build their business. We're not promising, as Professional Coaches Alliance community, that we're going to teach you how to coach. That may change in the future. We may get into coaching skills courses and trainings in the future. But right now, our promise is to help you build your practice. So we're constantly bringing in subject matter experts and speakers that can have content that is practice building, business building content. So whether you're an aspiring, an emerging, a seasoned coach that maybe you have something to offer, maybe you could be one of our business builder members and present to the rest of the alliance something that's helped you build your business that you offer to others, there's a place for you. And at the end of this month, on the 28th, that's right, Tuesday. No. The 28th would be a Monday, right? Is that right? I'm not sure. I'm not looking at the dates right now. I think it's a Tuesday, Thursday that I'm doing it, right? 28th, and yeah, it's a 2-day deal, right? So here's the link for it. So I'm doing one session on the Tuesday where it's called Having Fun with Org Chart 101. This is about understanding the functional accountabilities in any business, including coaching, and then helping us see that at a Goodyear blimp or an aerial coverage view, 20,000 feet elevation view of an org chart. So you can understand what all the functional accountabilities are, and you can start to see which functional accountabilities you're doing regularly, you're doing well, and which ones you're ignoring or doing poorly. And then you can start to make strategic plans to get those holes in your bucket patched up. So we're going to have fun with Org Chart 101. It's a presentation that I'm giving through the Professional Coaches Alliance on the 28th. And then again on the 30th is when I'll do the follow-up session for it. So it's an information presentation, and then 2 days later we'll do a separate session workshopping, rolling up our sleeves and actually putting pen to paper or clicking around and taking action on the content in more of a facilitated workshop style jam. So all of that's coming up. These are all the things that I have to promote. Hopefully I've done a good job giving some value in the summary of the first 10 tips, in the reading of today's tips. I've earned the right to promote all of these other things that we're doing, and all of it is about promoting this profession of coaching. It's something that has been wonderful in my life. I love mentoring and training and teaching and helping other people that want to embrace this profession, put these skill sets in their toolbox, whether it's an income earning hobby or I just coach for free because I love it so much, or hey, like I want to quit my job and be a full-time coach. Wherever you're at in this, hopefully I'm helping out, and it's a treat to be here with you every week. Sue, last call for comments, questions for tip number 11 at a Get a Klu in 52.
No more comments. Just always good to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I really appreciate seeing you every week. Again, I'm going to do these even if nobody shows up. I'm going to do them every week, no matter what. But it's always better when there's somebody live to interact with and see some facial expressions and get a little bit of feedback or validation or Q&A. So thank you so much. We'll go ahead and wrap up then for this installment of Get a Klu in 52. We'll see everybody next week. Go Aztecs, and enjoy all of this March madness that's circulating. Take care, everyone. We'll see you next week.